Hello and welcome back to Learn Linux TV. In this video, I have a special treat for you guys. For the very first time on this channel, we're going to take a look at the Cosmic Desktop from System 76. They've recently released an alpha, and I had a chance to check it out. I came away very impressed. Although it's not quite finished yet, it's looking really good, and we're going to take a look at it in this video. Now, if you haven't heard of the Cosmic Desktop before, then, well, what is it? Well, this new desktop environment originated from the Pop! OS project, a very popular distribution of Linux. And Pop! OS itself is a distribution that's based on GNOME, although the developers take quite a few liberties to make it their own. As time went on, more and more features were added to this particular implementation of GNOME, making it basically indistinguishable from GNOME itself. Eventually, the Pop! OS implementation of GNOME became so different it was given its own name, the Cosmic Desktop. Back then, Cosmic referred to their implementation of GNOME, but now, with this new release, the Cosmic Desktop has been rewritten from scratch. Cosmic is no longer a set of extensions within GNOME, it's literally its own thing now. And what we're going to do in this video is check out the alpha release of Pop! OS 2404, which features the brand new Cosmic Desktop. Now, one thing I want to point out though, and this is pretty surprising, is that you don't have to use Pop! OS to use the Cosmic Desktop. It's going to be made available for other distributions as well. In fact, it already is available for some of the distributions out there, for example, Fedora. However, what I'll do is use Pop! OS to give you guys an example of what you can expect. But before we get to that, I need to let you guys know that I have two brand new courses available. First, if you're in the process of learning Linux for the very first time, you should definitely check out my Linux Essentials course. Not only will this course teach you everything you need to know to get started and learn the basics of Linux, it's also going to help you get certified and earn your Linux Essentials credential through LPI. And the Linux Professional Institute is the world's largest Linux and open source focused vendor-neutral certification body, so by earning certifications through LPI, your credentials will be recognized around the world. But even if you don't have any interest in getting certified, this course is still a great fit for those of you that are getting started with Linux because it'll teach you all the basics. Also, I recently released an Ansible course as well, which will teach you everything you need to know to get up and running with Ansible. Ansible is one of, if not the most popular configuration and automation platforms in the Linux ecosystem, so it's definitely something that you need to learn. Ansible is a powerful and easy to learn platform that'll enable you to automate even the most complicated Linux administration tasks. And just like with my Linux course, each lesson will break down even the most complicated components and concepts into easy to understand lessons. And by the end of the course, you'll learn everything that you need to know to use Ansible as part of your daily toolset. And thank you guys so much for checking out my courses and supporting Learn Linux TV. I really appreciate it. Now, let's check out the Cosmic Desktop. And here it is. Here's the Cosmic Desktop in all its glory. Now, the first thing that I'll say is I really love the wallpaper. It's really good. At least it is in my opinion. I'm somewhat of a space geek, so I might be a bit biased on that, but I really do like this wallpaper. But the thing is, the wallpaper is going to be the least important part of any desktop environment. Let's take a look at the layout, the features, the look and feel, basically what you came here for. Anyway, let's take a look around. So up here at the top, we have a panel that shows workspaces, applications. This shows the date and time right here, and we have a system tray. Down here at the bottom, we have a panel. We have some default application icons here for things like Firefox, the file manager, terminal, and things like that. Now, when I first started using this, my first impression was that it's modeled after previous versions of the Cosmic Desktop. Previous versions were based on GNOME. This new version is its own thing, but it appears to be modeled after previous versions. And I think that's a great thing. That means if someone's upgrading from a previous release of Cosmic, then the general look and feel is pretty much the same. So starting at the top, let's take a look at workspaces. So right now, I only have one workspace. Let's just open up an application. I'll randomly choose this one right here. And now we have two workspaces, as you can see. So this is similar to the GNOME desktop version, where you have dynamic workspaces. So if I click on this one, and then let's say I open up a terminal. Now I have the terminal app open. And as you can see, I have three workspaces. Now you'll notice that these application thumbnails here are a bit empty. They're supposed to be application thumbnails inside. That's normally the case. Now again, this is an alpha quality release, so bugs are expected. The developers made that very clear, and this is an example of one of those bugs. So what I'll do, let's just log out. And right here, you can see that the terminal thumbnail is covering the menu right here, which I guess is another bug. So anyway, let's log out. There we go. Log out. And we'll log back in. And let's try that again. So just like before, let's open up an application and we'll go to workspaces. As you can see here, we're getting the same behavior. Now, one thing I'll mention is that for me, this works just fine normally. I'm experiencing this for the very first time because I'm using a screen recorder, which is seen as an external display. So I'm finding out that there's some issues with external displays as I test this for the very first time. But anyway, just like with the GNOME desktop, we have essentially dynamic workspaces here. And you can have different applications on each, as you can see. Now, if you right-click an application window's window border, we have this little menu right here, which is pretty neat. We have the ability to take a screenshot, for example, and we also have the ability to move a window to a different workspace. Now, I would have preferred if there was a drop-down menu or something where I could go ahead and move it to a specific workspace, but there's going to be missing features, of course, because Cosmic has yet to be finished. Now, we can also create a window stack as well, which I've just discovered for the very first time in the right-click menu. So now I have a window that has another window border inside the window here. Let's see what we could do with this. So I'll open up a new file manager window and take a look at that. We have two applications sharing the same window border, essentially, which is really, really cool. Now, what I'm curious about, and I'm trying this for the very first time as well, what happens when I open up a non-Cosmic app like Firefox? And as you can see, Firefox is now part of this window stack. If you want to separate it, you can right-click on it and then click Unstack Window. And as you can see, we were able to unstack the window. So we have Firefox here in its own window, and then we have the original window stack right here. So anyway, we can see some nifty tricks with the file manager, which is pretty cool. We'll come back to that in a moment, but back in workspaces, one thing that I've noticed is that there's no animation at all. So when I click on workspaces again to hide the menu, it's very fast. It's almost instantaneous, which is great, but it's also a little too sudden. But anyway, I think you get the basic idea of workspaces. If you've ever used a GNOME desktop before, then you're probably quite familiar with this. But for now, let's move on and take a look at other features. Now, one thing I want to show you guys before I go any further is what to do about this blue border right here. I saw at least one person that was asking about this, so I wanted to let you guys know how to deal with this. Now, I like it actually, but if you don't like it, it's pretty easy to get rid of. Now, if you don't know what exactly this border is used for, all it is just a border around whatever window is the active window. You can see whatever window is in front has a blue outline around it. So to get rid of that, we have a tiling menu right here. So we'll click on that. Now, we don't have to enable tiling unless we want to enable it. I'm going to show you that shortly, but you don't have to turn this on to disable the active window hint. You'll notice down here, we could turn that off with or without tiling being enabled. Now notice when I turned that off, the blue border went away immediately. So if you're one of those people that didn't like that border, well, now you know what to do about it. Now, one thing to keep in mind though is that this border can be helpful. So I'm going to give you an example of that right now. Let's turn on tiling mode. And we have these two windows open. Let's just open another window of something. Let's go ahead and unstack this. So now we have 3 application windows open in tiling mode here on this workspace. Now, where the blue border really comes in handy is in tiling mode, as you can see. It makes it very obvious which window is the active window. In fact, with some people, tiling can be hard to use without this border, so it is really important. But the thing is, when you disable tiling mode, I feel like this blue border is probably not as useful. So, for example, we know the terminal window is in front. With or without this blue border, we know that. So if we click on the tiling menu again and turn that off, we can still see that the terminal has focus even though the blue border is gone. Now the border does make it more obvious though. That turns the active window hint back on. It's pretty much the same thing. It just makes it even more obvious what's in front. So when it comes to you as the user, you can decide if that's useful or not. But in my opinion, it's definitely useful in tiling mode because, again, that makes it very obvious where the focus is. Now I'm going to return to tiling mode, but I just wanted to let you guys know how to disable the active window hint, since I know at least one of you is asking, and if one of you is asking, then there's definitely other people that want to know as well. And I'll show you the next feature, which is the application launcher. So if you press the super key, you'll see that an application launcher appears up here at the top. So you can start typing the name of an application that you want to launch. So I'll launch this one. So as you can see, there's a built-in application launcher that's easily accessible by pressing the super key. Now, similarly, if we click on applications right here, the application library opens, which gives you even more visibility into the applications that are installed on your system. So for example, you can click right here for Office. So we have some Office apps right here, and then system-related apps, and you get the idea. We can also add a group if we want to do that. And now we have a new group right here. And for all intents and purposes, the application library is pretty much the same as any other application launcher. But in my opinion, this looks a lot cleaner, and I also like that it doesn't take up the entire screen whenever you click on it. Continuing right here, we have the date and time. If we click on that, we have a calendar, and we also have a button right here to configure date and time settings, which in my case, this is wrong, and I do need to fix this. So let's go here, and I'll change the time zone. And we show the correct time zone right here, which should automatically adjust this clock the next time it changes the minute. And now on my end, the clock is correct. Now continuing along, right here we could choose a different keyboard language if we have more than one installed. So that'll help a lot of people out. The tiling mode we will come back to. Here we have the volume control. So we could choose the system volume, the microphone volume. We could choose the output source. And then continuing along right here, we have networking. I'm currently connected to my Wi-Fi network. And as you can see, accessing other wireless networks, that's a breeze. We just click one time right here, and there they are. Sorry to interrupt my own video, but I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I love creating Linux-related content for you guys. But unfortunately, producing high-quality Linux content like this isn't cheap. But if you want to help me make even more content for you guys, then consider supporting Learn Linux TV. And a great way to do that is to check out the official shop for Learn Linux TV, which was just recently updated. Inside the shop, you'll find distro-themed shirts, bags, drinkware, and more. And there's some other surprises there as well. For example, I've just introduced a mousepad that doubles as a Tmux cheat sheet. How cool is that? So check out the shop at merch.learnlinux.tv, or you could check out the merch shelf right here on YouTube. You could get yourself something really cool and support Linux learning at the same time, so it's a win-win. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the video. Here we can see the battery charge and also power and performance settings. Although this is really simple, I really like this. We get all the controls that we need right here. Screen brightness, which doesn't pertain to me because I'm recording the screen, obviously. Keyboard brightness, right here. And as soon as an application starts using your GPU, you should see it listed here in this section. Continuing, we have system notifications right here. You can silence all notifications by enabling Do Not Disturb mode, as you can see. Pretty cool. And then here we have a Bluetooth menu. And it's very similar to the Wi-Fi menu, where you can select a Wi-Fi network. It's just that here we have Bluetooth devices. And then right here, we can lock the screen. And I think it's really cool that they also list the keyboard combination here as well. Anyway, we can lock the screen. We have log out right here, suspend, restart, shut down. So just like the rest of the desktop, it's simple and effective. Now let's take a look at tiling mode. If you've used this feature in the past with previous releases of Pop! OS, it operates pretty much the same when it comes to the Cosmic Desktop. And just like before, we have an icon here for tiling mode, and when we click on it, we see this menu right here. So let's check it out. We'll turn it on, and now we're in tiling mode. Let's open up an application. And as you can see, now that we have tiling mode enabled, the file manager was open to take up the entire screen. If I open up a second application, you can see that it splits the screen. If I open a third, the screen will split again. So if you've used tiling mode in the past, it's pretty much the same thing. As you can see, if we resize one of them, we're resizing all of them. Now, when I have tiling mode enabled, what I like to do is make sure that the dock auto hides. So now tiling takes up the entire screen, and if we want to access the dock, we just come down here, and there it is. Another thing I want to show you, if you go up here to workspaces and then choose a different workspace. Now notice this application right here is in floating mode. This is not in tiling mode. And if we go back to the original workspace, we are in tiling mode. Now let's go back to the other workspace here, and basically what you're seeing is the fact that each workspace can have tiling enabled independently. Now in the past, you either had tiling enabled or disabled. That was it. And now we can have it enabled by workspace. Now the next thing I want to do is go over the dock right here. So just like with previous versions of Pop! OS, we have a dock here at the bottom. Anyway, right here we have our application launcher. Then here we have workspaces. Then the third icon is for the application library, as you can see. And then we have several application icons following after that. Now, one thing you'll notice is if an application is running, it's going to have a dot underneath it. So when I open up a terminal, notice how we have another dot right there. And if I open up another window, you can see that the dot turned into an oval. So that's basically how you tell if an application is open. And the panel will also indicate whether or not you have more than one instance of that application running as well. Now, one thing I hope they fix is the corners at the edge of the panel right here. It just looks kind of out of place, like it's not aligned correctly. I think it should be kind of more over, or maybe not quite as curved. As you can see, it just kind of looks weird to me. But anyway, other than that very, very, very minor criticism, this is a pretty effective panel. Now, let's take a look at some options here. So in the settings screen, so basically panel refers to this top panel, and then dock pertains to the dock down here. So let's configure that. We could turn it off if we don't want to ever see that at all. First, I want to turn that back on. We can make the dock automatically hide. So as you can see, when my mouse cursor touches the bottom of the screen, the panel will appear. And then when it leaves the vicinity, it'll go ahead and hide. Go ahead and turn that off. We could also extend the dock to the edges of the screen as well, which is pretty cool. We could also have a gap at the bottom, as you can see. I think that's pretty neat. Or as you can see, we can make the border disappear completely. Now, if you want to remove an application from the dock, simply right-click on it. And here I'll just remove the text editor just as an example. And now, as you can see, it's gone. And if you want to add an application to the panel, we'll open up the application library, find an application that we want to pin to the dock, then we'll right-click on it. We'll pin it to the app tray. And here it is. We can also drag an item as well. So we can change the order. That's pretty cool. Anyway, that was the dock. So what we'll do is just go back to the other menu. And let's take a look at the panel. So just like the dock on the bottom of the screen, we can auto hide the top panel. That's pretty cool. We can also change the position, which makes it look kind of weird, honestly, but you can do that if you want to. Put it back on the top, or even at the bottom like this, and make it look even stranger. So it's pretty cool that we get some customization here. I'll just change it back to normal. We can have a gap, as you can see, which I honestly think looks a little cooler, in my opinion. Change the size. Or we could even make it disappear completely. And this is pretty cool right here. We can add or remove components from the top panel. So for example, we could rearrange icons, as you can see. And also, if you don't feel like you're going to use a particular item, you can remove it. So for example, I don't ever plan on changing my input source, so I'll just remove that. And you can see the EN that was right here, that went away. So that's pretty cool that we have customization over the top panel. And now even more so than when this was based on GNOME. Anyway, continuing, we have displays. And obviously this gives you control over various aspects of your screens. Now, one thing I want to mention that's not really working as of recording time is trying to attach a dock to my laptop, for example, and this is directly related to screens. And the problem that I'm referring to is even when you have an AC adapter connected and also an external display connected, your computer will still sleep if the lid is closed. Now, technically that should never happen because that makes it very hard to use a dock, for example. But I wanted to mention that in case you guys use an external display, there's a bit of a problem with that right now. But again, this is an alpha release, so we're expecting bugs at this point. Anyway, we go to power and battery. We don't really have very many settings, but we do get to choose the power plan at least, so that's something. We have input devices. So we can customize our trackpad, keyboard, and things like that. So pretty self-explanatory there. Time and date. I adjusted the time and date earlier. And finally, we have system and accounts, which gives you control over users. It gives you the ability to update firmware. And the about screen is going to give you information about the host system. Now, I think it's really cool that in the system menu, we have the ability to update firmware. That's really, really useful. Now, obviously, with the Cosmic Desktop being an alpha release, I don't recommend anyone use this yet. However, I do want to report that I have used this on one of my other computers, and it worked just fine. So if you're curious whether or not this is actually able to update the firmware on your system, I can report that it does indeed do that. But again, I don't recommend that you try that, at least not yet. You should definitely wait until the final release before you utilize this feature. But on my end, I'm a bit more daring, and it worked just fine. Now, I am curious whether or not there's any firmware updates available for this system, so I will click on this. But it looks like on my end, I'm already up to date. Now, also, I want to show you the Cosmic App Center. And here it is. Now, I really like the look and feel here. It's very, very sleek. It's also very minimal. So I really do get the impression that less is more when it comes to the design of the desktop. Now, of course, further along in development, it might look different, but I really do like the way that it looks right now. Anyway, we have a handful of tabs here on the left-hand side. It starts with Explore, gives you basically an overview of some of the things that are available. We have the editor's choice up here. So if you want to install Slack, Lutris, or one of these applications, you could go ahead and do that. We also have popular applications. That's pretty cool. So if you wanted to install Google Chrome, for example, we'll click on that. We'll click Install. And I like how fast and responsive this is. The Cosmic App Store in the past has had some criticism for being a bit slow, but I think they really did do a good job here. It does seem to run a lot faster. Anyway, we'll let this install. Moving on, we have different categories here, as you can see. Different categories of apps. That's pretty cool. We also have a section for updates. And currently I'm up to date, so that's pretty cool. And then other applications that we have installed on the system, we have a file manager. So we have a few options here. It's a basic file manager. And then personally, I prefer list view. Different favorite folders on the left-hand side. And then if we want to, we can right-click on a folder. We can add it to the sidebar. So I added the desktop folder. And it's not looking like I'm able to rearrange icons here, but I am able to add favorites. We could also open folders and tabs. And that's pretty cool. In addition to that, the Cosmic Desktop has a terminal emulator as well. And here it is. And my first impression of this is that, like most of the apps of the Cosmic Desktop, there's not really a lot of functionality other than the basic functionality. So for example, we can have more than one tab. We have different profiles. And now we have several profiles here. And to edit a profile, it looks like we have a drop down here. That's pretty cool. So we could change the color scheme, but we only get one by default right now. Don't have very many options here, but it is effective. But anyway, my overall opinion of the Cosmic Desktop at this point is that it's really good. The performance is also pretty good as well. When it comes to whether or not it's ready for daily use, it's currently not. That makes sense. It's an alpha release. As you can see in this video, I'm running into bugs every now and then. That's just how it goes. But I think Cosmic itself is pretty well made. And there you go. We just took a look at the Cosmic Desktop for the very first time on this channel. My first impressions overall is that it's a very good desktop. I love the functionality. It looks great. But of course, there's going to be some bugs in an alpha release. And I did encounter some bugs when I did check out this release. So there's that. And there's also some missing animations and missing features that I think some people might not like. But I think it's going in a very good direction, and I'm very interested to see what comes of this project. But what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this video or Cosmic in general. I would really appreciate that. In the meantime, though, I have some awesome content coming if I do say so myself. So be sure to subscribe to Learn Linux TV for the latest in Linux, and I'll see you in the next video.